than thousands of Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded in recent months, not during large offensives, but in moments that last only seconds, when a single drone spots a lone figure moving across snow, stopping near a tree, or trusting that a forest line still offers protection. Battlefield footage released week after week shows the same pattern repeating. A soldier walks alone. A drone appears. There is no warning, no escape, and no second chance. This is no longer a war decided by who fields more tanks or fires more artillery shells. It is a war shaped by who controls the low sky, where cheap FPV drones now decide life and death at the level of individual movement. The danger goes far beyond immediate casualties. What is quietly unfolding is the slow collapse of traditional infantry doctrine, where dispersion, concealment, and short pauses once meant survival. Today, every step can be detected, tracked, and followed from above, even in forests, even in winter terrain, even when soldiers remain still. Ordinary actions that once felt safe are now fatal mistakes, not because soldiers act recklessly, but because the battlefield itself has changed faster than human behavior. The question now is not whether drones have altered this war. The real question is, which side will adapt fast enough to survive in a battlefield where the sky never looks away? Many segments of battlefield footage reveal Russian troops moving alone across open terrain or along forest edges, and they lack any group backup or skywatch. Several clips capture soldiers stepping out from trench lines in places where flatlands stretch far under winter skies, and one man wanders near a damaged fence while checking for paths ahead. He keeps his head down, focused on the ground, but the vast space leaves him fully visible from above, and no comrades stand nearby to signal threats or share loads. Another sequence shows a trooper edging through sparse trees, carrying supplies on foot, and his slow pace draws attention in the quiet woods, yet without a team to rotate duties or spot incoming dangers. Such isolated journeys often stem from tasks like fetching fuel or scouting spots, but they turn routine walks into high-stakes gambles, and the absence of partners means no extra eyes to catch subtle changes in the air. Footage depicts a fighter crossing a snowy plain alone, his footprints marking a clear trail, and the open view allows easy tracking from distant points, while zero support leaves him to handle everything solo. Ukrainian FPV drones spot targets well in advance, trail them from afar before launching strikes, and this process turns every movement into a potential hazard. Operators guide these machines through patrols over contested zones, using cameras to scan wide areas, and they lock onto figures long before closing in, which gives time to assess and plan. In one recent video from a field, a drone hovers high over the grass, detects a single Russian soldier strolling unaware, and follows at a safe range while he adjusts his gear without glancing up. The pursuit builds as the drone dips lower, matching his speed across the barren ground, and it waits until he pauses near a ditch before diving sharp. Another clip near a riverbank captures an FPV unit circling above thick brush, identifying a lone trooper slipping between trunks, and it shadows him quietly as he seeks cover under low branches, only to accelerate when he stops to rest. This early detection method exploits the lack of ground clutter in winter, where snow highlights shapes against white backdrops, and the drones maintain distance to avoid early alerts, ensuring surprise holds until the final moment. In today's conflicts, going solo not only weakens defense options but also leaves soldiers without alerts when UAVs fix on them as prey. Modern fights demand constant awareness across all directions, including upward, and isolated troops miss out on shared warnings that groups provide, like calls about buzzing sounds or sudden shadows. Footage illustrates this gap, where a single fighter rides an ATV through open paths, absorbed in steering around mud, and no ally rides along to monitor the horizon or radio updates. The drone approaches undetected from behind, exploits the engine noise to mask its hum, and strikes before he reacts, underscoring how lone operations strip away collective vigilance. Near wooded edges, a trooper hides briefly under fallen logs, believing solitude aids stealth, but without a partner to alternate watches or confirm safety, he remains blind to the persistent overhead scan that pins his location. This dynamic shifts power toward aerial tools, as solo moves limit quick responses or mutual aid, and the result often ends in swift overmatches where human limits meet machine persistence. One big question arises: does this pattern point to poor field discipline, or does it result from short manpower and ongoing strain? In snowy fields and empty plains, Russian soldiers try to protect themselves by tossing snow, shooting infantry rifles, or switching run directions without stop. These efforts show up in various clips where troops face sudden threats on flat grounds covered in snow, and one fighter spots the incoming machine too late while crossing a wide stretch. He grabs handfuls of loose powder from the ground, hurls it upward in quick bursts to block the view, but the flakes scatter harmlessly in the wind, and the drone keeps its steady path without slowing down. Another case captures a trooper firing his weapon skyward as he dashes across bare earth, pulling the trigger multiple times to aim at the small target above. Yet the bullets miss widely due to the fast motion, and he stumbles forward without hitting anything. Such basic responses aim to create distance or confusion, but open spaces offer no hiding spots during winter chill, and soldiers end up exposing their positions more through frantic actions. Video highlights a man changing course sharply while sprinting over clear turf, zigzagging to shake off the pursuit. But his heavy boots sink slightly into soft spots, and the constant turns drain his energy fast without breaking the lock. Such actions carry natural instincts, yet they barely touch FPV drones that adjust height, pace, and approach angles with ease. Human reflexes kick in during these moments of danger on vast landscapes, and a soldier might rely on quick throws or shots and hope to escape. But advanced tech allows the drone to hover out of reach or swerve around obstacles. This mismatch is shown when a fighter unleashes rounds from his gun while backing away, expecting the noise to scare off the intruder. But the machine climbs higher to dodge impacts and circles back without pause. Instinct drives another to fling nearby objects like a helmet toward the buzzing threat as he retreats across clear ground, hoping the item disrupts the flight. Yet the drone banks sideways in a smooth arc and resumes tracking without delay. Another video reveals how a trooper keeps altering his sprint pattern over exposed dirt, believing rapid shifts will confuse the sensor. But the device maintains observe from above and waits for signs of fatigue before moving closer. FPV units hold off on immediate hits, and they stick to chases until targets lose calm or grow tired. One recording shows a drone detecting a soldier midway through a field run, trailing silently at medium height while he glances back repeatedly, and it lingers just out of easy shot range until his breaths turn ragged from endless evasion. The device then drops lower in a controlled descent, accelerating only when he trips on uneven soil, and it delivers the payload with pinpoint aim as he struggles to rise. Another case unfolds near sparse grass edges, with the FPV spotting a lone figure following at a constant speed while he expends ammo in panic bursts, and it pauses mid-air to let exhaustion set in before tilting forward for the final rush. This waiting game exploits human limits against the drone's battery life, and footage captures how the machine adjusts its hover to match slowing steps, diving sharp once the target bends over to catch air. Sequences show the drone circles wide to avoid early countermeasures, striking decisively when focus breaks under prolonged strain. This setup points to a growing gap between human reactions and sensor-based war decisions that move at machine speeds. Numerous videos record FPV pursuits of Russian troops inside forests, spotting those concealed beneath canopies or remaining motionless in hopes of staying hidden. One clip shows soldiers seeking shelter among thick growths during daylight hours, and one fighter crouches low under broad leaves while scanning the path ahead for clear routes. He presses his body close to the trunk, blending with shadows cast by overhead limbs, but no movement escapes notice when the machine scans methodically. Another clip portrays a trooper pausing amid clustered stems, his uniform matching earthy tones as he listens for ground noises. Yet the quiet stance draws scrutiny from the air, without any shift to alert him. Such hiding spots once promised safety in wooded environments, but current tech pierces through gaps in the branches, and troops believe stillness grants invisibility while patrols circle relentlessly. Clip unveils a man slipping deeper into tangled underbrush, his steps careful to avoid rustling sounds, and the surrounding greenery provides brief illusions of cover, though persistent observation uncovers every subtle adjustment he makes. From elevated viewpoints, tiny shifts still suffice for drone identification, particularly when FPV flies at reduced speeds and takes moments to watch. Aerial perspectives grant clear advantages over ground-level limits in leafy areas, and operators ease the devices through open spaces between trees to capture faint signs like breathing patterns or slight leans. An FPV unit then glides slowly above a cluster of pines, picks up a soldier's outline pressed against bark below, and hovers to confirm details before advancing closer. The machine reduces velocity to analyze heat signatures amid the cool shade, lingering long enough to map out evasion options the target might take. This deliberate pace exploits natural camouflage flaws, where even minimal gestures like adjusting a strap betray presence, and the drone maintains steady orbits to build a full picture without rushing. Staying motionless or ducking behind trunks merely extends the tracking duration, rather than causing the drone to lose the trail. Frozen postures by fleeting delays in wooded hideouts, and a soldier might hold his breath under overhanging boughs, expecting the lack of action to fool sensors. But ongoing surveillance adapts to static forms by widening search patterns. Clips demonstrate this persistence as an FPV spots a trooper rigid beside a fallen log, circles wider to verify no escape paths exist, and waits until certainty builds before committing to descent. The device adjusts angles to peer through foliage layers, prolonging the standoff while the target clings to immobility, only to accelerate when patience pays off. Similar outcomes strike armored vehicle crews attempting to stash tanks or artillery pieces amid tree lines, where drivers maneuver heavy gear into shaded clearings, believing the cover shields them from sight. One instance captures an S-400 system parked near outer branches, its operators relying on natural barriers to mask the launcher. But the FPV identifies the metallic shape through gaps, hovers to align its approach, and unleashes payload directly onto the exposed frame. Another case involves a BM-21 missile setup tucked along forest fringes, crew members scattering to blend with surroundings. Yet the drone detects engine warmth from above, maintains lock during their freeze, and strikes with precision after brief observation. Another one shows a Buck M2 unit concealed at woodland edges, its radar array partially hidden by leaves, and the FPV slows to confirm coordinates, extends the chase by orbiting patiently, then dives to destroy the vital components before any countermoves. This marks a major shift compared to earlier wars, where thick jungles once served as reliable shields for infantry units. Some scenes display groups of 2 to 3 soldiers facing FPV attacks, where a few manage to pull back quickly, but one fails to get away. These moments unfold on various front lines amid harsh conditions, and troops often advance together carrying essential items like cans of fuel across exposed paths. One video reveals a pair moving side by side through a muddy trail, their steps coordinated at first as they scan ahead for dangers. But the drone descends from high up, locking onto the slower member who lags behind with heavier gear. The leading fighter spots the threat early, drops his load to sprint toward nearby brush for cover, and reaches safety just as the machine strikes the trailing companion with a direct blast that ends the pursuit abruptly. Another clip captures 3 men spreading out slightly while crossing a shallow dip in the land, communicating with hand signals to maintain formation. Yet the FPV targets the middle one who trips on uneven ground, allowing the others to scatter in opposite directions and evade while he struggles to rise. Such encounters highlight how small units rely on mutual awareness to survive sudden aerial assaults, and the loss of even one person disrupts planned tasks like resupply runs, leaving survivors to regroup under continued risk. Selective targeting proves effective in disrupting coordinated efforts on the battlefield, and operators focus on key vulnerabilities to maximize impact with minimal resources. This strategy is shown clearly when a drone approaches a group positioned near abandoned field, identifying the operator as the critical link, and it maneuvers to hit him first amid their defensive fire, causing the remaining pair to abandon their post and retreat in disarray. The explosion scatters equipment essential for communication, forcing the survivors to halt their advance and seek new orders, which delays overall operations in that sector. Another case with 2 fighters guarding a supply point, where the FPV ignores the armed lookout to strike the one handling ammunition, and the blast creates chaos that prevents any counterattack, leading the other to flee without completing the setup. This approach exploits dependencies within tiny teams, turning unified actions into fragmented responses, and the result often halts momentum for hours as units reassess threats. Even when a soldier downs a drone, the strain persists because follow-up FPV surges maintain the hunt. This ongoing pressure continues as a group fires at an approaching unit, with one trooper landing a lucky hit that sends the device crashing down in flames. Yet another FPV emerges from a different angle to strike the scattered members. Another clip captures a small group of 3 to 4 soldiers moving together across open ground, staying close and adjusting pace as they scan the area ahead. An FPV drone spots the group early and trails them from a distance, holding altitude while mapping their formation and direction. As the soldiers reach a slight rise and slow down, the drone lowers and commits, striking one member and forcing the others to scatter. The remaining soldiers attempt to regroup and change direction, but the first strike has already drawn attention. A second drone appears moments later, approaching from a different angle and cutting off their retreat. The group breaks apart under pressure, with no clear cover to reach. Within seconds, another drone dives in, completing the sequence as the survivors abandon the position and retreat in disorder. FPV drones now control the rhythm of the battlefield, not only by striking targets, but by shaping how infantry move, pause, and react under constant pressure from above. Several recordings show small infantry groups advancing cautiously across exposed ground, staying close to maintain awareness while carrying fuel cans, ammunition, or basic supplies. An FPV drone detects the group early and follows from altitude, keeping enough distance to avoid drawing attention. From above, the operator studies spacing, body language, and load distribution, identifying which member moves slower or carries critical equipment. As the group reaches uneven terrain and naturally slows, the drone lowers gradually. One soldier begins to lag behind under the weight of gear. The others adjust pace, but the separation creates a moment of imbalance. The drone commits at that point, diving sharply and striking the slower member. The blast forces the remaining soldiers to break formation and scatter toward different directions, ending the movement immediately. In another sequence, 3 soldiers spread slightly while crossing a shallow dip in the ground. Hand signals keep them aligned as they move, but the terrain disrupts footing. One man stumbles and falls behind for a second. The FPV drone, already tracking from above, shifts angle and locks onto that brief delay. The strike lands before he can regain balance. The other 2 abandon the route and retreat separately, leaving the task unfinished. This pattern repeats across multiple engagements. FPV operators do not attack groups at random. They select moments where movement slows, spacing changes, or attention drops. By removing one key member, the drone disrupts the entire action, forcing survivors to withdraw under continued risk. Some soldiers attempt to escape aerial pressure by entering abandoned houses or damaged buildings. From ground level, these structures appear solid enough to block sight and provide shelter. From above, the drone follows entry points, broken roofs, and exposed walls. Operators watch the screen carefully, tracking movement between rooms and floors. They wait while soldiers shift positions inside, listening and preparing. When the timing is right, the drone dives into the structure or strikes from above. Several recordings show explosions strong enough to collapse roofs and tear through walls. In some cases, the blast eliminates everyone inside. In other cases, survivors rush out of the ruins to avoid smoke and fire. The drone remains overhead and follows immediately, turning escape into another pursuit. Once outside, coordination collapses. Soldiers run in different directions, drop equipment, or attempt to reach nearby cover. The drone adjusts speed and angle, staying aligned with movement. What began as a shelter becomes a trap that exposes soldiers at their most vulnerable moment. Across these encounters, the effect is the same. FPV drones dictate tempo. They decide when movement stops and when it resumes. Small units cannot regain initiative once tracking begins. Every detection creates delay, confusion, and withdrawal. Under constant aerial observation, infantry movement becomes short, cautious, and incomplete. Routes are abandoned. Resupply runs fail. Positions cannot be held for long. The side controlling the low airspace sets the pace of the fight. These scenes show a battlefield where pressure never fully lifts. The sky remains active, watching, and waiting. In such conditions, the question is unavoidable. In a war where the low airspace is never empty, how much freedom of movement can infantry truly maintain? What is unfolding on the battlefield in Ukraine delivers a sharp warning about how modern war now functions. Because FPV drones are no longer just tools of attack and have become the system that shapes every move on the ground. Across fields, forest edges, roads, and ruined buildings, the pattern stays consistent. Movement is detected early. Tracking continues without urgency. Pressure builds while options shrink. The strike arrives only after control is complete. This is no longer a fight decided by numbers of tanks or the volume of fire. It is a fight decided by awareness, timing, and the ability to adapt under constant observation. The war is still active, and both sides continue to adjust. New drone tactics appear. New defenses are tested. Each response triggers another layer of pressure. What remains uncertain is whether traditional infantry forces can truly operate in an environment where the low sky is never empty, or whether aerial control will keep tightening its grip. The next phase of this conflict may not be marked by dramatic breakthroughs on maps. It may be shaped by quieter changes in how soldiers move, pause, and decide when to act. Those choices will influence outcomes long before large offensives take place. If this kind of clear battlefield reporting matters, like the video, share it, and subscribe to Military Force for more in-depth analysis of modern warfare.